The other night I watched a film called Paperhouse. It was released in 1988. It was directed by Bernard Rose of Candyman fame, and it stars Charlotte Burke as Anna and Elliott Spiers as Mark, the two main characters. The story is about it's incidentally it's based on a novel called Marianne Dreams by Catherine Storr, I think her name is. I haven't read the book, but and there was another adaptation of this for British television, I think in the late 60s, maybe early 70s, called Escape from Dreams. So if you have seen that, then you might sort of know what this film is about. It follows a young girl who is dealing with basically a dysfunctional family. She's dealing with an estranged father, and there are real problems within her family. And at the same time, as a lot of children do under those circumstances, she starts to play up at school, starts to try to fake illness, get out of school, things like that. Try to get attention, and initially she's not very sympathetic initially. The young girl Anna eventually falls ill, and when she falls ill, at the same time she starts drawing these pictures. She draws a picture of a house, and the next time she falls asleep, or the next time she's ill and she's unconscious, she finds herself in the house that she's drawn, and it seems real. It seems very real, a lot more real than any dream. The house is sitting in this sort of desolate landscape on its own, and she starts visiting the house in her dreams, and she starts to wonder whether it's real or not. Eventually she starts to change the picture that she's drawn, so she draws a little face in the window of the house, and when she does that, the next time she visits the house in her dreams, a little boy called Mark appears. I say a little boy, he's about, I think he's about 14, 15. And his situation isn't very good. He's paralysed, and initially I think she thinks that that's because she hasn't drawn legs for him or anything like that, but she starts realising that she can't make him walk for whatever reason. But what she does do, she starts to alter the house to try and make things better for him, and she keeps visiting this house in her dreams. Eventually she finds out that there is a real life boy who she hears about, who seems to have a spookily similar condition to Mark in the dream house, and she starts to connect the two as equivalents of one another, a dream version of Mark and a real version of him in the real world. So the story progresses, and the little girl Anna, while she's dealing with the problems of her family, she eventually she tries to draw her father in the picture with terrifying consequences. But it's out of good. She tries to draw her father in the picture because for her, her father is the symbol of manhood. He's the one. He's the protector, and she says that he will come and carry Mark away to a better place. But I don't want to ruin it. That's as far as I really want to go with it. The film affected me. Paperhouse affected me greatly the other night when I watched it. In fact, so much that I didn't want to do a video right away. I actually wanted to have a little think about it. And you see, the problem is this. Horror films, as much as I love them, very rarely have something real to say, at least to me. I love them, I'm totally into them, but I'm into the supernatural element of it, the mystery element, the what if element of it. But it's rare that you get a horror film that really reflects upon real life in the way that a lot of other genres do. And I think, in this instance, you have a film that it's probably better to think of it as a dark fantasy film, but it has real horror elements. Some of it is really quite frightening, but it's important because the film really reflects upon real life. I think it reflects upon how children deal with real questions, like how do children deal with death, how do how they question death, how do they come to terms, or how do they explore the concept of death, because it's a completely alien concept to a child. I think also the realization that our parents are not perfect. You know, we often sort of heroify our parents. We make them up to be something that, you know, they're invincible, and then especially in our teens we get angry and annoyed and resentful at them because we find out that they're human and they have frailties, they have flaws, and we get annoyed when we see those flaws in them because that's not that jars against their earlier you know, sort of preconception of them. And I think this film also explores imagination and how a child imagines the world around them, and how the imagination of a child is so important. There are scenes in this film where people try to deny the pictures that Anna's drawing, and it's really important that, you know, I mean, for me anyway, I think children should be encouraged to be imaginative and to explore that imagination. But there's this thin line between reality and fantasy, and you know, if you allow a child to go so far into that fantasy, where do you draw the line? Those are interesting ideas. I think that, you know, it's a profoundly emotional film. I found it really overwhelmingly so, a really poignant film, and I felt that it really, really affected me quite profoundly. And it's rare that a horror film will do that, other than, you know, scare the pants off you. You know, it's rare that a film that at least has horror elements would you know, really sort of touches you, and this film really does. You know, I think it was marketed at the time to be like a children's film. To me, it's very much, and you know, it seems to me very much to be like, you know, adults making a film about childhood, about their childhoods, and because of that, I think it is probably more appropriate for an adult to watch it and to reflect back on their childhood. But I think it could still, and I know it has affected a lot of people as children as well. Why this film is not well known, I have no idea, because I really want to say this. This is, without doubt, you know, one of the best fantasy films I've ever seen. It's one of the best, if not the best film that I've ever seen that deals with real childhood issues. And it's also, and this may be a personal thing, but the fantasy world that she goes into, and the dreamlight world, it's so spookily like my imagination when I was a kid that, you know, I think they really tapped into something there. But I've looked online, I've seen a lot of people think the same about it. So yes, it is a fantasy film. Yes, in some ways it's a children's film, but it's really frightening in places. It's a really excellent horror. It's got really excellent horror elements to it, and you know, it really should be better known. And this film just absolutely proves that there are gems out there that people don't know about. It's interesting because I, watching it, I sort of I think I may have seen it. I certainly haven't seen all of it before, but I think maybe when I was younger, maybe I saw little parts of it, and maybe the images struck me. There was something spookily familiar about it. So I would 100% recommend this film. Really, Paperhouse, 1988, but it's wonderful. It is a British film. There are peculiarities about it. You know, the mother, the actress that plays Anna's mother, had to like redub all of her lines 2 days before the film was being released in an English accent, which wasn't her her real accent, bizarrely, and there are a whole bunch of strange things associated with this film. But you know, it's just wonderful. It's incredibly poignant, and I thought especially the performances were just fantastic. So please, please, please check it out. Now, after I watched this film, after I watched Paperhouse, I did what I normally do when a film really affects me, and that is straight on the internet to find out what other people thought about it, and to, you know, converse with other film fans, just to, you know, talk about it on forums and things like that. And so I was already feeling quite, you know, I'll admit I was feeling quite emotional, you know, after watching the film. It just really struck a nerve with me. So I was already feeling that way. And then when I was reading about the film, I found out that the boy who played Mark, Elliott Spiers, sadly passed away when he was, I think he was 20 years old, 1920. I think he was 20 years old. And you know, that really, because the film was so poignant anyway, and I have to say he's by far the best thing in it, and I'm not just saying that. You know, it really struck me. It made the film seem even more emotional to me. But I have to stress, the film I thought was already fantastic. It was just that then I found out about you know, the passing away of Elliott Spiers, which I thought was really sad, really tragic. Then I found out that in fact he committed suicide, which again was even sadder. And I think one of the reasons as well that it sort of resonated with me is that it's coming up to the 5-year anniversary of you know, someone really close to me passed away in that way, and it was very, very difficult, and I think, you know, we're round about that sort of 5-year anniversary. It's actually just in a few days, and I think that, you know, that so that affected me. I don't want to go into any of that. That's not the reason I'm making this video. So I did connect with the what happened to Elliott Spiers, and apparently what happened is I went online and found out that his mother Catherine had actually posted a lot of things online about her son, you know, rightfully so, because she should be so proud of what he did in this film. And you know, apparently he took a malaria medication that induced psychosis. Apparently it's something that has happened in a few people, and he spent 2 years trying to fight the effects of it, and unfortunately, you know, he tried his best, but you know, unfortunately he lost that fight. And it's incredibly sad, and some of the things that his mother has posted online, you know, they're really incredibly moving. And yeah, so I wanted to talk about him, but because the funny thing was, I knew him from somewhere. I knew it, you know. And then I'm looking at his sort of resume. One of the other things that he did is he was in The Storyteller, which is one of my favourite TV series of all time. It's a Jim Henson production. It's absolutely fantastic, and he was the boy in one of the best stories, The Heartless Giant. So that affected me even more, you know, just the fact that, you know, what happened to him, his brilliant performance in Paperhouse, and then realising that he had a brilliant performance in something that was already dear to me as a child. So but I felt like I really wanted to make a video about not just the film, because the film really deserves to be seen and it really deserves to be remembered, but also because I felt that Elliott Spiers' performance in Paperhouse was phenomenal. So touching, and I think, you know, I'm not just saying that. I'm not just saying that. Like I say, I felt that way when I watched the film, and I didn't know anything about this. It's just so sad, and he seemed to be an incredibly talented guy, and a real loss, by the way. I mean, I think he would have went on to have done a lot more great things, but he does have a lasting legacy. like I say, he's in The Storyteller, which is, in my view, one of the best TV series ever made, and he's in Paperhouse, which is just a phenomenal, phenomenal film. So an overly emotional video, this one, but I really felt like I felt like I should talk about the film and talk about Elliott Spiers, because you know we should really get the word out, and people should remember that film, and most specifically should remember him, because he seemed to be incredibly talented, and let's say his performance really touched me, and I'm sure it. Well, I know for a fact, as I've went on the IMDb pages and other pages where loads of people have already been touched by his performance. So very sad, and I just wanted to sort of talk about him and this wonderful film a little bit. So check out the film Paperhouse, and when you watch it, keep in your thoughts Elliott Spiers and his family, and that's all I wanted to say. Bye.